You are Locked On Ole Miss, your daily podcast on the Ole Miss Rebels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Hello, I'm Steven Willis from the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I'm joined by Josh Guest, like I am each week, to talk about Ole Miss football. And Josh, Ole Miss went on Monday for SEC Media Days, and it was the absolutely headliner of the day. Everybody was gushing on them. Yet Jordan Rogers talking about Jackson Dart being his pick for the Heisman. Everybody's predicting Ole Miss to make the playoff. And even Ole Miss got a prediction for an SEC championship game from Ben Watson. So the question is it just weird seeing Ole Miss getting that kind of respect nationally? Because it was basically Ole Miss Day Monday.
Stephen, it was, and it is weird because we're not very far apart in age, and you keep talking about this is the season you've lived your whole life waiting to see. And, just like, just to take it back to baseball, 2014, we went to Omaha, didn't have much, 2-2, we're out, by Virginia. And then in 2022, that was sort of the run we've all been waiting for in baseball ever since Mike Bianco got there. And so, to win that natty was incredible. And this season is that season in football, the anticipation, the roster, what we've waited for so long. So, yes, it was weird. And I wanted to expect it, but I was scared to expect it. I want to have fun with it, but you know where I'm coming from. And I didn't know what to expect. I was a little taken aback at how, at least in Lane's presser, I didn't feel like there were any. I'm trying to think back if there were any. There was no major shots. There might have been a couple of. I don't even know that there were any underhanded little whatevers in there too much.
It was a Nick Saban press conference. That's what it was. He was just up there talking. Nothing was happening. It was very Alabama circa 2018.
Well, and speaking of that, by the way, you saw AL.com posted like a 3-minute clip of him talking about what Saban meant to him in the time that he had. And he was very appreciative of the chance that Coach Saban gave him. And he talked about, for Saban being an old school coach, how he took risks, which was not always what old school, especially defensive coaches, did. And so he was very appreciative of that, and how Coach Saban had done that with other coaches as well, and sort of brought them back into the fold of coaching after maybe there was some controversy around them for whatever reason. And so he talked about that. I also liked how he talked about the NFL and free agency, and how the NFL has it figured out, and how college football needs to sort of trend that way. And as you have said many times, this is not going to look the same every year. Lane even said it about, we're not going to put a percentage like we're going to get 80% of our roster from the portal and 20% from high school. He said it's going to fluctuate from year to year, and from person to person and what happens. He goes, and with all the open doors with people coming and going, he said, yes, we're going to get people, but we're also going to lose people, and we got to be ready to get the right person, the right fit for our program. And again, he talked about the roster gelling, which. And liken it again to NFL. He did that a whole bunch in his presser, was liking things to the NFL. And so, he had that experience, which I think is great for him to draw from, as well as working under Nick Saban, the GOAT of coaching in football. So that's been a blessing for him, I'm sure.
Yeah, Jackson Dart, Trey Harris, and Jared Ivey were the other players that were at SEC Media Days. And honestly, I got to be honest, Josh, Ole Miss kind of just owned that day from beginning to end. And the 3 players they took to SEC Media Days, we all knew it would be a perfect fit, but it was absolutely a perfect fit.
Yeah, and their personalities. I mean, and you could have taken another 17 handfuls of players from the football team and gotten this similar personalities. I mean, it just would have worked. And so I'm hopeful because of what you've talked about with Dart recruiting, Princely Emmanuel, and everybody, Chris Booper, all of them being involved in that, because I think there's buy-in. I think that it's going to help the gelling of the team. And Kiffin, by the way, even talked about on the flight over how he was cautioning the guys, hey, this means nothing. The high rankings mean nothing. The love, the praise means nothing. And then, of course, he did get the questions about rat poison. You know, how do you, with all the social media and everything on their phones all the time, how do you dispense the rat poison and keep them grounded? And he's like, it's just kind of tough. It's kind of like parenting. You got to keep saying it over and over again and hope something sticks.
Yeah, so, that's why he makes $9 million a year. It doesn't matter what other people are saying. Rat poison. I am a rat poison salesman. That is basically my job here, and I'm not going to stop. It's going to be up to them to handle it. I mean, if Ole Miss needs to handle that, if they are going to get to the area that they have the ability to get to, and I do think that it is disrespectful to Jackson Dart. It is disrespectful to Jared Ivey. It is disrespectful to Trey Harris to treat this Ole Miss team like it's the 2012 Ole Miss football team. Mm-hmm. The expectations have to match the talent level, or you're being disrespectful to those players. That's right. And that's why I said I hoped that it would be this way, but I was kind of scared to feel that way. In the same way for the season, I'm very hopeful. But if I'm honest, deep down inside somewhere, there's a little fear about, everything going wrong, because that seems to be how we roll at Ole Miss, So I'm excited, though. I think it's going to stay on the tracks, and I really am. Hopeful is not the right word. I think I expect the team to have good chemistry. I don't expect the special teams not to want to play because Jackson Dart's getting attention, or Walter Nolan not to be wreaking havoc on defense because Jackson Dart's getting too much attention for the Heisman, or for Jackson Dart to go, well, the defensive line's getting all the love, I'm gonna shut it down. I don't think that's going to be the case at all for any group or any person or any player. I think they're in this together. And I think they're banding like a band of brothers. I don't have any inside information on that. I just think that that's the way it is. And I think that all the guys that came in understood, hey, we're putting our eggs in this basket, and don't come here if you're going to mess it up. And so I think this has got a chance to really steamroll. And like you said, we don't need a 42-21 first game of the season. We need to do record-setting numbers, 84-0. And I don't mean to be ugly, but we need to roll it up. They were in the playoffs last year, man. Come on. So there's expectation of rat poison, which I get out in plenty of abundance, but good grief, 84-0. Good grief. I'm calling Michael Borky is a Furman person. He's going to be on your doorstep. Okay. He come talk to me. I don't have anything against Furman. I don't have anything against him at all. It's just, if we're playing Furman, we better win 84-0. All I'm saying. So, a lot of people are going to be worried about chemistry for this football team, and they should be to a certain extent, because there's 45 new players on this roster, and all of them gelling together is going to be overly important for Ole Miss this season. But as long as Jackson Dart and JJ Pegues and those guys are calling the shots, I'm not overly worried about chemistry. And anybody that is just kind of, well, this is where we think it's going to go wrong, so we're going to put our eggs in that basket. That's right. Yeah. And like I said, I just told you, I feel good about it too, Stephen. And, the other thing that is in the back of my mind, and I almost don't even want to say it out loud, is we got to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. And if we do, I just. Hey, but Ole Miss doesn't play Vanderbilt this year, so that's a good sign for the staying healthy. Yes. There was a 10-year period to where just the star player for Ole Miss just got injured against Vanderbilt every single year. It was the dangest thing. Going down. Yep. So thanks again for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We talked to Josh about breakout players in 2024. That should be really good, so stick around for that. But Game Time is the place to get your Ole Miss tickets. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying Ole Miss tickets. Views from the seats, every seat in Vaught Hemingway Stadium. You can check that out before you buy the ticket, so you know exactly what you're getting into. They have the lowest price guarantee, event cancellation protection, job loss protection. You can take the guesswork out of buying Ole Miss tickets with Game Time. And with this being the most anticipated season in Ole Miss history, I may be able to help you out with tickets too. So download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE. That's all one word, for $20 off. So download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all of that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every single day to bring you the biggest stories without all of that screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, now that Ole Miss is done with media days and we're roughly 2 weeks or so from the start of fall practice, which that is, yes, thank you, that is getting here. We're going to start talking about us prognosticating things like breakout players and that. And we're going to start with Josh right now talking about breakout players. Who do you expect to stand out this season that maybe you're not thinking of? And where I'm coming from is this morning's show, or not this morning's show, Wednesday morning show was about TJ Dudley and was about Caden Lee. So in that vein, who are the breakout players that has your attention?
Well, Steven, I know that it's not in the same vein you're talking about, but I was thinking like new players as well, like Juice Wells. I know he's expected to do well, but I want to see it. And also I think it could happen, and it could happen in a major way. And so I just think that compliment to Trey Harris as well as the entire room, but he's just one on the receiver side. And then on the defensive side of the ball, I don't necessarily have a name of one individual, but what I would like to see is somebody in the defensive backfield break through with 4, 5, 6 picks for the season. Maybe return 1 or 2 for TDs or something, and kind of break out that way.
Are you thinking Trey Amos, like with the Senquest Golson type of year?
It could be anybody.
Or Trey Washington sitting in the back that does the Todd Sandroni thing?
Yeah, either one. I mean, I don't know whether it's going to be a cornerback, a cover guy, or a safety, but just are we able – because I think that would be a sign of the defensive line wreaking havoc if the defensive backfield. And maybe it's a collection. Maybe it's just sort of them in general. Can we get 6, 7 picks this year, or whatever? I don't know. But that's sort of what I would look for because let's face it. I mean, that defensive backfield has been one that's been quote unquote, I don't mean picked on by other teams necessarily, but just not as strong as other units maybe have been in the past. But right now, you tell me, where's the weak unit on the field?
Yeah, the one that if anybody was going to have questions about just from the outside looking in, it would probably be linebacker. Yeah, is the thing that everybody. But with TJ Dudley and Kari Coleman and Pooh Paul and all of those guys, you can see to where Ole Miss is probably going to be pretty good, especially if that is a 2 unit, where it's a 4-2-5, to where that's a smaller numbers type thing. Now, the interesting thing that I think breakout players that could happen this season that nobody's thinking of, I think you need to look on the defensive line with Akello Stone, with Xavion Harris. I think those are 2 players that have a chance to really step forward and basically form the next level of this defense. And also Camarion Franklin. Cam Franklin is somebody that could absolutely pop in year 1, especially with the other players that are on that defensive line.
Well, if they get the attention, I mean, that goes to reason. And by the way, talking about Pooh Paul, Lane talked about that in the press conference and how in the NFL, again, another NFL reference, you play a guy who performs well against you. And he said, look, Pooh Paul got injured in the game against us. He said, and before he went out, we had a lot harder time running the football. Mm-hmm. He said, and after he went out, we were able to run the ball a little easier. So, that alone right there, that tells you what you need to know. Like you talk about sideline to sideline, and you can have the speed. There's one thing to have the metrics, but there's another thing to have the sense and the football acumen, and he has it, and its proof is in the pudding. And look, again, people from the outside look, oh, Lane Kiffin likes to throw the ball all over the place. They're air raid. No. Run first.
This is a run team.
Yes. And so when you have a running team and a running coach talking about a linebacker on the other side made it hard to run, yeah, let's go get that guy if we can. And we did. So I'll just tell you, Steve, I got really excited when he said that. I was already excited about it, but I still have my reservations somewhat. But man, I got super excited because of that. And it was reservations only because I hadn't seen him on our team.
Mm-hmm.
But when Lane said that, I was like, you know what? I mean, we've been talking about it, and there's proof of concept right there, live game action in the SEC. He made it harder for us to run the ball. And if you can do that, I'm a believer because I'm a believer in our offense. And
I'll talk about it on Wednesday's show a little bit, but Zach Arnett is now the greatest assistant linebackers coach in the history of football, and he can actually coach. He can actually put a headset on the sideline and handle that. And the reason I bring that up is Pete Golding is a 4-2-5 guy. He is basically a four-man front type person. They do some stuff with Jack, but it's still basically a four-man front. Going all the way back to Marcus Davenport. Zach Arnett being on staff is a really big guru of the 3-3 stack. I think personnel being able to slip in and out of a four-man and a three-man front is going to be very important. That's the reason I talked about TJ Dudley and Princely and Monmielen, to where you can essentially have a five-man front on the outside with defensive ends. I think this defense has a chance to be completely unlocked through the versatility and players like TJ Dudley on the defensive side of the ball, like Akella Stone, Xavion Harris. I mention all the time, it's not a top 11, a starting 11 anymore. It's a top 22. You have to have 22 players with no drop-off for you to be really good and to go where you want to go.
Yeah, and the other thing, that's what I was going to ask you too, what you thought about this, but I think not only Dudley, but Centarian Perkins and his ability to be a down lineman on the end, to rush in, or back up and be a linebacker. Do you think, does anybody have three-level, Dudley or Perkins? Can they go back and play safety if they need to? I mean, I
don't think they're there.
Okay.
Dudley's a very athletic guy, and Perkins is just a super athlete. But I do not think Perkins is a back five player. He might play some hybrid stuff to where they drop a little bit of a script, essentially, to give him a little bit of a package, but I would expect to see him eventually as a linebacker and on the defensive line. If you look at what LSU went to this year, it's like, hey, Harold Perkins was a really good player. We need to put some weight on him. But they were bragging of him being over 220 pounds. All of this sounds familiar. I mean, it should. And they're going to rush him in the A-gaps, and they're going to put him on the edge, and it's going to be a whole lot of C-cat, hit-cat. And I think Centarian Perkins is going to go down that same road, honestly.
Yeah, but you were talking about 4-2-3-3. If you have Dudley, Perkins, Monmielen, any of those guys on the field, you can slide in and out 4-2 and 3-3 in a blink. I mean, with an audible, And so that makes like you said, the versatility. And it's just harder when you have that, when you have somebody in any sport that is versatile and can do different things. It just makes life easier as a coach. And so
it's a phrase that I used a lot this time last year: positional versatility. Yep. It is the main thing in modern college football. Whether you're a wide receiver, they want wide receivers that can play inside, outside, to be a faux tight end. Whether you're on the defense side of the ball and they can drop you down to an end and to a linebacker, you can play the hybrid linebacker and safety position. Positional versatility, and the quarterback not being able to make a 100% guess of exactly what he's going to see is going to be the difference in this defense this year being great and this defense being elite, honestly.
Yeah, and you talked about that. You talked about the keys to just the team being elite and different things, the defense and that kind of stuff. So I hope we see it. I hope we see that eliteness throughout the season. And I hope they come again. I hope they come out firing on all cylinders, and not to bar turns from other sports and peak too early or anything like that, and get on a run at the right time, so to speak. But man, I just hope they do, because football is one of those things where you can gain some confidence, and if they come out firing on all cylinders, a lot of times teams that come out like that can hold that. They can hold that momentum, and so but in 2022 with baseball, right? I mean, Ole Miss got hot at the right time. And I think I said it every year from like 2000 to 2022. Let's just get hot at the right time, but we never would. We got close in 2014, obviously, but we got hot at the right time in 2022. So, and by the way, it never gets old talking about a national championship that Ole Miss wins in any sport.
Well, the funny thing is, to get that national championship, a whole lot of people said prayers to the man upstairs of what they would be willing to endure after that. And as soon as it's over, they just threw that out the window. It's like, get rid of Mike Bianco. It's like, we would handle 2 losing seasons if we won a national championship. Well, that was a lie. So.
Yeah, that's right. Because now we have it. It's like, get rid of everybody.
Yeah. So it should be quite interesting. I'm telling you, as the season gets closer, as practice happens and everything happens in Oxford, I've started sending out my advertising emails for football season for people that might be willing to sponsor the show for what it is. I mean, our rates have gone up a little bit this year as well, because obviously where we sit at the moment, but it's kind of fun to have this, like, we're very much on the edge of what could be absolutely special. And if we do this right, and when I say we do this right, I do mean everybody. I don't just mean Ole Miss football. The football team has to be good. The people that are selling advertisements, they go through it. People buying advertisement does it. This is a chance for a rising tide to absolutely raise all ships, if you're willing to do it. If you are just, hey, my way or the highway, or I'm the only person, you're not going to be able to do it. And there's going to be a cap on what you can do. But if you see this as an opportunity for a rising tide to lift all ships, you have a chance to make a ton of money for yourself, have a great time during the football season. And this is just going to be an amazing year. This has been the year I've been waiting my whole life for. That's
right. And look, with Lane Kiffin leading the charge with the football team and being willing to adapt and be an early adopter and those kind of things, I think people feed off that. I think the fans see it. I think the advertisers will see it. I think the businesses. I mean, look, if you're in Oxford or any SEC or college town, you can make hay on home game weekends in lots of sports, but especially football. And so it just stands to reason that businesses in Oxford benefit from this in a major way. And so anyway, it's going to be cool to see and cool to watch unfold as the season goes on.
I saw a video of Oklahoma fans. They're coming to the Grove later on in October, and they were talking about it. It's like, hey, don't even look at hotels and Airbnb. It's absolutely ridiculous. And they're already shopping like in Memphis and Batesville and places like that, because it's just outrageous of what's going on inside of Oxford. So interesting type stuff. Anyway, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast, including YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Josh Guest joining the show this week like he always does. Josh, what do you got going on this week, bud?
Well, Steven, tomorrow is the 2nd annual Mississippi Sports Broadcasters Luncheon. And so I will be attending that. I got to go last year, which was really cool. And I was a little starstruck. There were some legends of Mississippi. And, of course, being an Ole Miss guy, David
Was Rob J there? Is Rob J still a thing?
He is, but I don't remember. I don't remember now. So I know Right News broadcast, he did it for years and did some other things as well. And he covered sports for one of the local stations. And so, but I don't think he was there. Now you see, you got me there, and I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it was like this. Whenever I was young and formative in my younger years, Sports Journal on NBC, Channel 3, WLBT in Jackson, was just a major part of my Saturday nights, where they do 15 minutes on all of the Mississippi teams. There was a video that was shot from a practice from Mississippi Valley of a player that went into a trailer right there. Just, in the middle of practice, just hit a trailer, and that is just burned into my memory like a plasma screen TV that got left on a paused channel for 2 hours. But yeah, Rob J. he was the voice of that.
Well, Will Kohlmeyer was Channel 9 out of Tupelo. And that's who I saw a lot on the sports growing up, was Will Kohlmeyer reporting on some stuff. And so, no, it was good stuff, and I'm excited to go tomorrow. Just got back from Houston, which was an incredible adventure. We got to go see my daughter. But man, the power, there was just pockets of power out. So our hotel didn't have power. We had to adjust on the fly, and that was tough. But it all worked out. So we got to see the Astros and Rangers go to extras, and 2-1 game on Saturday. Got to spend time with my daughter, which was the real reason we went. The Astros game was just a bonus. And so that was kind of fun to see her and then, make the trek back to the great state of Mississippi and be back here around the city of Oxford, where hopefully this fall things will explode.
All right. Well, tune in for other stuff during the weekend. I think tomorrow we have John Macon Gillespie. Next week, we're going to start previewing fall camp. And we're going to start looking at all the stuff that people need to pay attention for that. But Josh, thank you very much, bud. And we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Howdy, toddy, go Rebs.
Howdy, toddy.